Welcome to the camp this morning, bright and early, or for some, bright and early. I used this joke yesterday already, so I'm going to use it again. If you were with me last night, then this is very early. Thank you for coming. My name's Dan Holman. We're going to talk today a little bit about merchandising in your store. I call it Merchandising 101 for the wealthy retailer. Wealthy being an acronym that we created, retail wealth, defined as winning, not Charlie Sheen winning, but this idea, this core value of creating a win-win-win environment in your stores. Win-win-win, meaning you win, your customer wins, and more importantly, your vendor wins. Because if your vendor wins, they then support us over and over again. So we believe in this culture. You'll hear me talk a little bit later about this culture of win-win-win. Energized, we know that our stores have to be energized. The more energized our stores are, the more energized our clients are. The more energized our clients are, the more they spend. Our stores need to be admired by our customers, admired by our peers, admired by our vendors. Every retailer's aspiration should be to be admired. Our stores need to be lean. This joke's getting old too, not lean like this. Lean in inventory, lean in expense, lean in presentation, lean giving us the ability to be nimble, that we can shift and move with the marketplace. We need to be tenacious. We need to treat setbacks as anomalies. Get up and keep charging towards our vision. And then finally, if you want to obtain retail wealth, you have to be happy. You have to recognize that happiness is an essential ingredient to success, not the other way around. We grew up believing that if we worked harder, we'd become successful and then we'd be happy. Sean Aker will tell us that that's not true. We first have to find happy before we ever find success. And so when I go and talk to the retailers that I work with, the very first thing I preach to them, you have to be happy in retail. You have to love what you're doing. You've got to find happiness here so that you can then achieve this success that you're desiring. And so my name's Dan Holman. I mentioned that already. I am a retail coach, in some cases a retail counselor, but more importantly, an inventory coach. And so I work with retailers across the continent, North America, in helping them to better plan inventory. And so today we're really going to talk more specifically about inventory and the things that I see that are ultra successful in stores. So while some of it's going to seem a little bit opinionated, it really comes from a foundation of knowledge, of understanding what's happening in the marketplace and taking advantage of those best practices and then sharing them with the rest of the retail world. And so I'm all about self-assessment. I'm all about grading myself against where we need to be. So I say to everyone, it's time to be honest. You know, grade yourselves on these statements. Either, yeah, I do it, or I don't. Most importantly, I have a classification structure in my store, an effective classification structure in my store. A class is a group of inventory that sells on a similar curve, i.e. tops. All men's tops sell on a similar curve, and I need to have that classification structure in my business. Number two, my vendors are my partners. Without that, this is the one and only time I usually get a clap from a vendor, otherwise they're trying to shoot me. Vendors are my partners. Without them, I can't win this game. I can't be successful in retail without my vendors. Number three, I re-merchandise my store weekly. Every single week, I am re-merchandising. I mean re-displaying the goods in my store. I revalue and mark down inventory on a regular basis. For some people, that regular basis is weekly. For some, it's monthly. For others, it's quarterly or annually. If you're that person that has an annual sale, you are not winning at retail. You will never obtain retail wealth if you mark down once a year. You need to maintain markdowns every single month. And then finally, I pay my vendors, my suppliers, my staff, and most importantly, myself on time every single month. And so if you answered yes to all of these, I appreciate you coming, but I'm wasting your time. If you hesitated on any one of them, awesome, let's chat. So, We're going to start with classifications. Talk about classifying your inventory. Understand how your customers truly shop. When I say truly shop, I mean, what do they come in the store looking for? Rarely is it ever brand. Rarely is it ever brand. More importantly, more often they come in looking for a classification of inventory. They're coming in looking for an outfit, for a board, for a tent, for some gear. And so inventory needs to be classified that way. Because we can trend by class, you need to utilize an effective DCS structure: department, class, and subclass. Department being women's, class being tops, subclass being casual or dressy, or any other short or long sleeve. Some way of identifying what's trending in the store. Understand that there are implications to changing classifications along the way. If you know how many tops you've sold at value in the last 6 months, you have a pretty good understanding of where that trend is in your store. Understanding that trend in your store at the classification level is paramount. Would you buy 100 if you could only sell 50? Would you buy 50 if you knew you could sell 100? You need to know where those tops, where that class is trending in your store. It's about cash flow. It will come back to cash flow. And so I say to everyone, buy with confidence. Buy by classification. I'm going to back up. So there's a ton of information within this presentation, and there's a bunch of notes. If you would like a copy of the presentation, just go to or2017.com, or2017.com, enter your name and your email address, and I'll send you a copy of the presentation with my notes. Sorry. Okay. Buy by classification. Create a plan that allows you to spend dollars at the class level, not the vendor level. I'm looking for a vendor, I might get shot. Buy at the class level, not the vendor level. Vendors run hot and cold. You're going to see vendors today that came out with some great things and others that didn't. And if we steer away from the vendors that didn't and only to the ones that did, we may miss opportunity at the class level. Go out and buy shirts, spend dollars, create a plan that allows you to satisfy demand in your store at the class level. Build budgets that are based on how your class is trending and the demand that you're seeing. Best advice I ever gave anyone: see yourself as a personal shopper or a personal buyer. Your job is to fill your clients' closets, not your store. Doesn't matter how big your store is, your job's not to fill it. Your job is to fill your clients' closets. Your job is to satisfy their needs, not yours. See yourself as that personal shopper. Every time you make a buying decision today, attach someone's name to it. Molly will love that. This is a great thing for Steve. You know, Molly and Steve represent 70% of the customers that walk through your door. 70% of the customers that walk through your door fit this exact same geo, demo, and psychographic. They come from the same place, they're in the same demographic, and they're the same kind of person. They're the same psychographic person. 7 out of 10 customers are identical. If you stand back and look at the traffic that walks through your door, you can fit 7 out of 10 into this mold. And that's who we buy for. That's the core customer. Educate yourself prior to every buying appointment. I'm going to talk a little more about it when I get to vendors, but educate yourself prior to every buying appointment. How are they turning in my store? What's my cash margin? How do they score? Understand what's trending well and what's not trending well. The one thing that you know that they don't is your customer. Go for the win. So establish and maintain win-win relationships with your vendors. They need to be your partners. Healthy vendor relationships lead to success. They are our partners. We need them when we're doing really well, and they need to understand when we're not doing really well and why we're not doing well. Establish turn and sales goals, margin goals with vendors before you commit to buy. Get on the same page. What's an acceptable turn rate in ladies' apparel? 3, 4, 5 times a year? How many times do you buy ladies' apparel? How many months out of the year do you land goods? If you land goods in your store 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 times a year, shouldn't your turns be 8, 9, 10? It's not acceptable to have a 3-time turn rate in inventory. It doesn't generate enough cash flow. Understand what your goals are, share your goal with your vendor, and hold them accountable to it. This is what we expect to sell. This is the margin we expect to achieve. These are the number of turns we want before we commit to buying. So that when you do have a challenge 6 months from now, we can go back to this conversation and say to the vendor, hey, remember we talked about having a 4-time turn? We talked about having a 48% cash margin. Cash margin, everybody know what cash margin is? Cash margin, the dollars created beyond the cost of inventory. Sales minus cost of inventory, cost of purchasing, not cost of goods sold. It's not about what you sell, it's about what you buy. Sales minus what you bought at cost equals cash margin. Cash margin are the dollars that you create to operate your stores. If you have a 38 to 42% expense structure in your store, 38 to 42% of revenue, how much cash margin do you need every month? 38 to 42 to break even, right? If your buying sees your cash margin at 55% of sales, we don't generate enough money to operate the store. We become cash poor. Even though our P&L statement, our accounting says we're profitable, we don't have any cash, right? It's because our cash margin is running too high. Celebrate with your vendors. When you have success with a vendor, pick up the phone and tell them, hey, I'm having some success. Man, thank you so much for introducing me to this style, this color, for convincing me to buy in, for being on my team. Celebrate with your vendors. It is more important that we hold them in high regard every day. In times of trouble, we need them to get behind us. We need them to help us balance inventory. We need them to give us markdown dollars. We need them to give us better terms. That comes from having a healthy relationship, not a sour relationship. Put me in, coach, a rotation strategy. Create a rotation strategy in your store that sees you moving inventory every single week. A rotation strategy will allow you to find hot spots in the store. Remember the 3 P's in retail: product, placement, and price. You have to get all 3 right to achieve a sale: product, placement, and price. And so by moving goods around in your store, you're identifying where product does its best. More importantly, if you're moving product around your store every single week, stale merchandise gets handled instead of buried or forgotten about. How many times have you gone into the store and said, gee, how long has that been here? Move things around every single week. Creating this rotation strategy allows you to identify hot spots, where things perform really well, where they get the most eyes, where the dwell time is the longest. Everybody knows what dwell time is? Anybody not know dwell? Dwell is the amount of time a customer stands in one place or one area. It's the amount of time they spend exploring a classification. You know, the buying phase is dreaming, exploring, planning, purchasing, and enjoying. You know, in your store, they're in that exploring, planning mode. The longer they spend at a display, the better our success is to get them to the next phase, the purchasing phase. Creating this rotation strategy in your store allows you to identify those spots as people maneuver, or as my mom would say, meander through your store. Right? I talked yesterday about the importance of a traffic pattern, a well-defined traffic pattern in your store. You dictate how customers maneuver through the store. You create the opportunity for them to spend more time in the store. Not barricades, but paths. Things that entice them to walk further and further into the store. For what it's worth, it is ultra important that you start thinking in retail dollars. Every single thing you do needs to be focused on the retail value of goods. What will customers pay for it? It does not matter what something costs, only what the customer will pay for it. If you use a standard 2.4 or Keystone in some cases, or 1.8, if you use a standard markup factor in your store, you're missing opportunity. Not opinion, fact. If you use a standard 2.4 time markup, you're missing opportunity. The minute something lands in your store, more importantly when you're out here buying, you should be thinking about what it's going to retail for, but when it lands in your store, look at it and ask yourself, what will the customer pay for this? I'll give you an example. So I used to buy home accessories for a home fashion store. And I'd come back from market, things would start to land, and I would unpack and display them in the warehouse. And then I would get salespeople, merchandisers, warehouse staff, yellow stickies, and I would say, go and price this for me. So things that I bought for 20 bucks, they were telling me they were worth $80 or $90 or $125. I bought a vase one time for $6 and they priced it at $109. If I had used my standard 2.5 time markup, wouldn't we celebrate all the way to the $15 bank? Right? When you're pricing your goods, think about what the customer will pay for it. Gross margin, recognize that gross margin comes from selling goods, not pricing goods. Price things to sell. Gross margin, while important, I won't discount the value of gross margin percentage. The most important thing is the gross margin dollar. How many dollars can I put in the bank? If I'm selling a $650 board at a 33% margin, I need to know what dollars that represents. I don't need to beat myself up that I'm only getting 32 or 33%. Understand the dollars that it puts in the bank. Understand what your break even is and what dollars you need to operate your business. We can spend all day long pricing our goods at 55, 57, 58% margin, but it doesn't mean anything until they sell. Price things to sell and think in terms of retail dollars, not inventory. Cost of inventory only matters when you're buying. The minute it hits your store, it has to be thought about in retail dollars. That's what you ask your customers for. You want your customer to give you retail dollars. When it comes to, so I gave this talk at a group of distilleries, and I never even thought. I use this all the time. When it comes to Scotch, the older the better and the more we'll pay for it. You should have saw the faces of these distillery retailers when I said that. Your inventory's not the same way. It devalues every day. And they're saying to me, okay, hold on a minute. Do you know who you're talking to? We do sell Scotch. And yeah, the older it gets, the more it's worth. But in our world, that's not true. The older your inventory gets, the less it's worth. Your inventory devalues itself every 30 days. Now, you decide how much it devalues every 30 days. Think about it like this. If you want to achieve a 4-time turn, inventory has to be sold within 90 days. Beyond that 90 days, I now have to bribe customers. What do I mean by bribe customers? Mark it down, right? I have to start taking markdowns. Product, placement, price. I believe you're all good buyers. So the product isn't the problem. You have a rotation strategy in your store. You're moving things around all the time. So it's not placement. It's now price. And the older something is, the greater the bribe, the discount has to be to move it. If it doesn't sell in the first 90 days you own it, what makes you think it'll sell in the second 90 days? Price goods at their real value. Grab that $100 shirt in the store and ask yourself, what's the customer going to pay for it? And mark it down. What I mean by that is kill this virus. Prevent disease in your store. Take markdowns. Understand that markdowns are an essential ingredient to maintaining a healthy inventory. What do I mean by healthy inventory? I mean fresh. Do you believe that fresh goods in your store drive sales? The fresher your inventory, the more market share we can go and capture. Isn't that our goal? Earn more market share? We earn market share by having fresh goods. We earn market share by having products that no one else does. We earn market share by feeding classifications that have demand. Understand why you are taking markdowns in your store today. What's the number one reason we take markdowns? We're over-inventoried. Why are we over-inventoried? We're over-inventoried because we bought beyond our ability to sell. Right? We took advantage of a show special. I'm going to get shot now. We took advantage of a show special. We bought 10 grand more than we should have at cost, $22,500 at retail, more than we had the ability to sell. And so now the only way to fix that is to take markdowns. Understand where markdowns come from and prevent them. Buy to demand, not beyond demand. Grade 6, we learned about supply and demand. What happens? Was it grade 8?
No, you're Canadian.
Oh, I'm Canadian?
You say grade 8.
Grade 8? What would you say, 8th grade? All right.
As the son of Canadians.
Clearly, I'm a Canadian. All right, in the 8th grade, I think it was 6th grade, whatever, we learned about supply and demand. The greater the supply, the less the demand. The greater the demand, the less supply that's needed. You want to speed up turns in your store, feed up to demand, not over it. Want to speed up inventory turns, feed to demand, not smother demand. The minute you smother demand, sales start to wane. What's the number one thing that prevents customers from buying right now? Statistically, the number one thing that prevents customers from making a buying decision is the lack or the confidence that it's the right decision. Where does that come from? It comes from choice. The more choices you have, the less certain you are you're making the right decision. Narrow your choices. Here you are, a curator of the best things in your store. You swim through, I gotta stop saying stuff like this, the minutia of crap that is at a trade show, and you find the best things for your customers. You find the best things. You're a curator of the best things. And so those choices in your store can be pared down because, as I said earlier, you're a professional buyer. You're a personal shopper. You're buying for your customer, not for your vendor's customer. You're buying for your customer. And understanding where that opportunity is paramount. Sorry, one more thing on markdowns. Did I get back to that? when it comes time to mark something down, please, please, please get away from using 20, 30, 40, 50, 60% off. It doesn't place value on goods. If you've got a $100 shirt and you believe the customer will give you $39 for it, write $39 on it. Every client, every customer, every guest in your store has their own price, quality, value equation. Price, quality, value. Every single person has their own equation. When you tell someone something is 50% off, there's something wrong with it. There's something that messes with that psychological calculation. I'm not saying don't tell people in your store you have markdowns up to 70% off. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying place real value on inventory. If it's $19, write $19 on it, not 70% off. If you write 70% off on an item that you think you can get 35 for instead of 19, you're giving dollars away. Place real value on your products. Cash is king. You want to achieve retail wealth, you want to be successful in merchandising, it's understanding the importance, the significance of cash. Take your P&L and tear it up and throw it away. It doesn't mean anything. The only thing that has any significant value in our store is our bank balance. Our cash flow. Cash is king. Cash is how we feed our stores. Cash is how we feed expenses. It's about cash. Understand the two most important metrics in any retail business: inventory turn and CMROI, cash margin return on investment. The only two things that demonstrate our ability to generate cash. Cash doesn't come from what we sell. Recognize this. Cash comes from how we buy. Our job is to sell. We sell all day long. If we want to generate more cash, we have to think about how we buy, not how we sell. Think about the significance of turning inventory over. Be this bicycle tire going through a puddle. The faster we go through that puddle, the bigger the spray is. Turn that spray into cash flow. The faster you turn inventory over, the more cash you generate. Cash comes from having open to buy every single month. Open to buy. Now, any monkey with a number 2 pencil can calculate open to buy. It's very, very simple. What's difficult to calculate or to forecast is the sales, is the demand. Get on a plan that accurately forecasts your demand and your buy and your stock to sales requirement. The open to buy formula is pretty simple. We always start with our planned sales. How much are we going to sell this month, this quarter, this season? We're going to add those markdowns because we know we have to take them. We know they happen. We're going to add our planned ending inventory. We're going to take away what's on order, and we're going to left with what's open to buy. I plan my sales. I plan my markdowns. I tell myself where I want to finish the season in inventory. I take away anything I already have on order, and that's my open to buy. I need open to buy dollars every single month. Why? That cash, those open to buy dollars, allow me to feed the classifications in my store that are performing the best. When you catch a flyer, you need open to buy dollars to buy more. Open to buy dollars represent the amount of fresh goods you need in month, in season, to drive sales, to earn market share. The more open to buy you have, the fresher your inventory. The fresher your inventory, the more sales you will have. As a thank you for coming and hanging out this morning, if you go to or2017.com, fill your name and your email address in there, I'll do a free inventory analysis. I'll tell you where you're missing business, which classifications in your store are being bought correctly or incorrectly, where you stand as a benchmark in your industry against all other retailers. and where the greatest opportunities are in your store right now from a purely data perspective. Let the numbers tell the story. You see, the one thing that I have that you don't, I have this unemotional attachment to your money, your inventory, the commitment that you've made to all these great vendors. I'm indifferent. I don't care. It's all about the numbers. I'll tell you where the greatest opportunity is. or2017.com, and we'll give you a copy of the presentation with the notes. And if you want that inventory analysis, just let me know. I'll be around for a little while if you have questions. Anybody have questions right now? Don't be shy. All right. Carrie Watson and I are going to be around for a little while. If you have questions, come over and talk to us. Thank you.